It's just categorically false. No, Biden did not take FEMA relief money to use on migrants. So FEMA regional administrators have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's emergency food and shelter program to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants.
Well, apparently that was then, and this is now, as is common with the Biden mouthpiece, otherwise known as Karine Jean-Pierre. She's contradicting statements she made in 2022 and labeled them now as misinformation in 2024. She continues to claim now that the Biden regime didn't, in fact, give away FEMA funds in 2022 that could be going to in-need Appalachian American citizens in the wake of Hurricane Helene's path. Instead, they had already given them to illegal migrants. Well, tell that to the good people of Chicago. Chicago has become a war zone rife with senseless violence and mayhem in the wake of the Biden regime importing criminals from other countries. The video you are seeing gives you a glimpse of life under permanent Democratic Party rule. The shooter you're seeing is named Mehdi Medellel. Now, police say that Mehdi executed those two people at JJ Fish and Chicken in Chicago over an argument. Life is very cheap these days, apparently. According to Illinois activist Terry Newsome, who also hosts Behind Enemy Lines, the podcast, Mehdi is in the country illegally. That's appalling, if true. Then again, an illegal alien would never commit a crime like this, right? Well, that's at least what the National Bureau of Economic Research wants you to believe. A study published in the National Bureau of Economic Research claims that immigrants, illegal aliens, have consistently been incarcerated at lower rates than U.S.-born citizens. So in other words, they're trying to say that they behave better than U.S. citizens. Well, you're supposed to just ignore the fact that Chicago saw an 11,000% increase in arrests of Venezuelans between the summer of 2022 and last December. I wonder how they got into the Windy City, right? You're definitely not supposed to notice people like this illegal alien in Chicago who nearly decapitated his wife in front of their children. It's just not happening, they say. And you saying that it is simply makes you a bigot. Unfortunately, most Chicago residents would fall into that category these days, no matter what Karine Jean-Pierre wants to say, or the Chicago mayor. 60% of all residents in Chicago say that they're unhappy with him, saying that Mayor Brandon Johnson was handling crime badly, according to the Center Square. Terry Newsome understands that viscerally. He's the host, as I said, of Behind Enemy Lines, and he joins us now. Terry, thank you for joining us, and thank you for bringing this to our attention, because there's this, look, we're in a time where we're seeing Americans, citizens, actual citizens, suffering, and there's not enough money to help them, right, in my home region of Appalachia. But then there's plenty of money to, as you've highlighted, you brought forth so much information about how much the government is giving to illegal immigrants, especially in Chicago, who is housing a large Venezuelan migrant community, and there's been an uptick in crime, and they've had no problem giving money to them. So tell us about, we censored that shooting just a little bit because we put some blurring on it because it was quite graphic. Tell us how you came across this CCTV footage and how we know that this is an illegal migrant.
Yeah, a police officer friend of mine that knows what I'm tracking sent that via text message to me. And so there's it's a never ending story. All the different crime that's going on in Chicago, and you've been covering it really well, right? And I don't know if we mentioned this on your show a few weeks ago. An illegal immigrant at a gas station on the edge of the south side of Chicago shot and killed an African-American man who was pleading for his life, and he shot him in the head twice while he's on the ground, begging to not do it. And as you see here, right, this person has absolutely no respect for life, like it was nothing, right? Casually goes over and casually walks away for nothing. And this stuff is going to be more and more frequent as time goes on. We're having way more burglaries and thefts on the scooters, those little scooters and little bikes that they ride and stuff. That's going on big time downtown Chicago. I have a friend that's a police officer in the western suburbs, and he's telling me, he goes, he goes, you can't imagine how many these Venezuelans that we're pulling over in the what? I mean, a high end, nice suburb of the city of Chicago. So they're getting settled in, thanks to Catholic Charities. They're being pushed out. They're given money for apartments as they move out of the shelters. Those criminals, and we know most of them are criminals. We had 710 police reports in one location for 12 months. It's 2 a day. And what really upsets me is that I just saw WTTW just came out with a story like a few weeks ago that these immigrants create less crime than us. The evidence shows, well, the evidence that we have shows quite the opposite. They're lying. They're totally lying to us.
So how do you feel when you see the Joe Biden's press secretary, who was just actually promoted not long ago to like a senior advisor for the president, Karine Jean-Pierre, suggests, because you've been following the money trail, that's one aspect of this border crisis that has made its way to Chicago that you've been very focused on. How do you respond to Karine Jean-Pierre suggesting that the federal government never gave money to illegal migrants, that none of the FEMA money was used for illegal migrants?
First and foremost, she's lying. Remember, these are the same people that can't even describe a woman or think that men can have babies. So you take that as a baseline, right? Secondly, they're pumping this money through different channels, right? So when she says that, she's probably fudging the fact that it's going through different channels. Well, we didn't really give it to them, right? I just confronted the Holiday Inn, and I think that's happened since I was on your show last. Me and Ben went, it's full now. This is the Holiday Inn that they were pumping them out before the DNC. If you remember, it's full of Venezuelans and some Haitians. And we got confronted by the guards, guard security, and we got confronted by the NGO New Life Center, which is an affiliation of the Obama Foundation. And these NGOs were coming out yelling at Ben and I, and got it on camera, right? You're on federal property. You're trespassing federally. We're like, no, we're not, and they called the police on us, 911. And they came up and they're trying to get the police to arrest us. They were pushing us, and nudge back to them, of course. And they're all of a sudden, I'm pushing them. And the police officers said, what do you mean federal property? It says Holiday Inn on the building. There's no federal signs. All the parking signs it says Holiday Inn Express. So either these guys are, again, lying to us, which they are, or they're telling us the truth. It's federal property. And there's got to be a reason why it's considered federal property. And where would that money come from if it really is federal property? Who would pay it? It'd be FEMA, right? It wouldn't be the FBI. It'd be FEMA. So either he's telling the truth, it's federal property, or he's just lying like everything else and trying to, scare us off and act like we're committing a federal crime.
Tell us what happened to that shooter, the illegal alien shooter that we see in that security footage. Was he arrested? What happened
he was arrested
to him
yesterday? It was you guys have the shot that you actually have. I don't know if you could pull that up from the police department itself. He was just arrested. And stuff like that, these egregious crimes, hopefully they're going to keep them in prison, right? But in general, they get all these free goodies, right? We bring them up here, we house them, phones, cards, food, Medicare. Well, one important thing for these criminals that they have an advantage of other criminals, not that I'm doing a commercial for criminals, but they get a get out of jail free card. These guys get out of jail free in many cases, and they're told not to arrest them. Just like when they were doing the illegal street takeover, the cops are told not to even mess with them. You got 200 and some guys on motorcycles and dirt bikes and taking over the street, and nothing happens to them without license plates. So how are we going to get out of this hole when our own government at the state and federal level, in Illinois, state, federal, and local level, they're not even enforcing the laws that are on the books? So of course these guys are going to go on a crime spree. Just down the block from me, the doctor his house was robbed. The head of my HOH called me last week. The Venezuelan gang, this is her exact words. Police told her a Venezuelan gang robbed the doctor's house when he was gone. So this is happening all over the Chicagoland area. It's not just the inner city. It's not a Chicagoland. It's an American problem. Until we get the right politicians, even when we do get the right politicians and Trump in here, he'll seal off the border. But the rest of the country, the cancer's here and it's spreading. So how are they going to? It's going to be a very difficult time to try to track these down. Hopefully, they're going to prioritize the murderers that we just saw, right, and go after the most violent of the violent. But this thing is going to multiply. Even those that came here that didn't come here on the intent to do crime owe the cartels, right? They owe the coyotes. Yeah. And these people that are here are going to force them to pay back. And if they can't pay it back when they don't get a job, they're going to be forced to do other things to protect themselves and to protect their families. And they're going to be told to go here, pick this up, do that. And they're going to be enslaved under these cartels.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, Terry Newsome. We're just kind of on the precipice of all this. And as bad as it is only the beginning. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. I wanted to talk about it because literally just yesterday from the podium, Karine Jean-Pierre suggested that the taxpayer dollars had not went to bringing illegal migrants into our country as she was approached, or pressed about the lack of money for Appalachia. But I knew you above anyone else, or more than anyone else, knew that that was absolutely untrue, because you've done such a great job of documenting the flow of money and the different entities, the NGOs that it goes through. And for our audience, if you're not familiar with Terry's reporting, you can go to, as I noted, the Behind Enemy Lines podcast, which you can find on Rumble, preferably, or YouTube as well. Thanks, Terry. We appreciate it.
We're gonna do a boycott of Holiday Inn at that hotel in 2 weeks. I'll send it to you.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
What is it going to entail?
So we're going to have a Trump rally. I talked to Ben Berkham's going to try to come. I got other people coming up. And then the guy that's running for Kim Foxx's spot is a district attorney, a Republican, was just endorsed by Jesse Jackson yesterday. I got to get him on your show.
Wow.
A Republican was endorsed by Jesse Jackson yesterday. Big news.
We would love that. Actually, my father-in-law worked with Jesse Jackson back in the day. So, and just for our audience who might not be familiar, Kim Foxx is that district attorney who backed up the fake MAGA crime, remember, of the Empire actor. So if you feel like you've heard that name, you have. And that is where it's from, because it was the fake MAGA extremist crime that supposedly happened in Chicago, but turned out the actor, Jussie Smollett, had actually hired people to attack him. So we would love to talk to her opponent. We hope you can make that happen. Thank you, Terry, as always. Right. And we'll look forward to the boycott.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good news. I talked to Michael Lindell this week, and he is still running that $14.88, $14.88 Classic Collection Standard MyPillow Special. This is one of the best deals he has ever offered. Now, that is with promo code. When you use the promo code TRUTH, all you need to do is go to mypillow.com. You're going to search for the Classic Collection, and they are still on sale for $14.88 when you use the promo code TRUTH. Of course, while you're there are lots of other fantastic deals on many other great products offered by mypillow.com, but that is one that I don't know how long it'll last, but it's one you definitely want to take advantage of. Again, go to mypillow.com, use the promo code TRUTH, or call the number you see at the bottom of your screen, 800-944-5396, 800-944-5396.